allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing for a moment, please. Heavenly Father, we ask tonight for your divine blessings for the Wheeler family, and that you would grant Godspeed to your loyal servant, Officer Robert Wheeler. And as the city takes a new turn tonight, we ask that you bestow upon Chris the wisdom and strength to take us to the next level as our acting administrator. We learn in Matthew that Jesus began to look for disciples to follow him, and many left their families and their jobs and their way of life instantly to follow him. Lord, we ask for that level of faith and commitment in what we believe in, and we ask for all of this tonight in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Kathy, roll please when you're ready.
Carter. Walter.
Here.
Epperson.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hampshire.
Here.
Hicken.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present. First thing on the agenda is citizens' comments, and we actually have two guests. I had talked to Jeff Rothweiler from the library earlier this week. It was later in the week, last week, and it was a little too late to get Jeff on the agenda, but Jeff will be speaking along with Rob Platt from Southwest Licking Sewer and Water for an update. So Rob, you're up first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Rob Platt, for the record, 371 Woodside Drive. Just had a little bit for you tonight, nothing earth-shattering. I did want to welcome the new members of council and introduce myself, as I've not yet met you. I am a representative appointed by this body to serve on the Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District Board. Just in the way of updates real quick, the concentrate line construction project is underway, and that's for the water plant. So although the water plant is up and going, they have to discharge east to the sewer plant out that way. So there is a line that has to go in for that, for the concentrate that comes out of the plant. We have had a couple meetings actually, CJ and I, with your utility board, or at least a couple of the members, not as any kind of official meeting, but just kind of some discussions, as well as with Mr. Chirac, trying to get to some resolution on the agreement that's between the district and the city. I did want to say tonight that we have had discussions at the board level with that. I think we're in a great place on it. We're feeling pretty good about it. Feel that what we've discussed is acceptable, and hope that the city can come back with their comments and some finalization on it, and hope honestly to have that put in place here by the end of the month. That's our goal, and hope that we can have that. I think that's a great thing for both entities, and look forward to moving forward. In general, I'll be honest with you, I look forward to 2020 as a whole. We're getting underway. You know, I'm a new member there, but there's a lot of great things going on. I think we're going to make a lot of progress this year. So I'm happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can, and be happy to come back next month with an update, probably some more information for you.
You may not know this offhand, but there was some chatter over the weekend with some discoloration in water in your area. Do you know if there was any actions or anything they were working on or doing that would cause that?
I do not. I'm not aware of any breaks or anything, or flushing, so I don't know. Be happy to check on that.
Please do.
We'll do so.
Anything for Rob tonight? Okay, well, I appreciate you keeping us updated, because that agreement is crucial, and it's great that you're moving forward, and to hear you say that it's possibly very soon, that's fantastic.
I think we're in a good place.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say really quick, I'm very grateful for the time that we were able to, that we've been working together, so council knows as a whole. I'm one of the people that Mr. Platt mentioned that we periodically are meeting to go over the agreement between the two, and it's been productive, and I'm grateful to you and CJ, and also to Chris and Andy for making the time to see if we can make this happen. So,
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
Thank you, and likewise.
Yeah, didn't mean to sell you guys short, I know you're working.
No,
on
that's
it,
not why I
so
want,
there.
I want council to know that some of us on council, especially the new people, are having that dialogue, and remind council that might have forgotten that two of us are continuing that dialogue.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Rob. Yep. Jeff, you're up. Name and address, sir, for the record, please.
Jeff Rothweiler and 101 South Vine Street. I'll give the Pataskala Library address.
You
Um,
live there most of the time anyway,
Yeah,
right?
not a resident of Pataskala, so. But I haven't met a lot of you. Thank you for having me tonight. Appreciate you letting me be here and talk for a little bit. I've been with the library for about 14 years. Been the director now for 9 years. To give you a little bit of background myself, I'm the current vice president for Pataskala Area Chamber of Commerce. I used to be the Rotary Club Pataskala president, so I'm very involved with the community. I like reaching out and helping out. I feel like I'm a part of this community even though I may not live here. To give you a little background on the library, if you're not aware, we were established in 1937. I won't go through all the details. But 1986, 1967, we moved to our current facility. We expanded in 86 and doubled our size, and we had our last renovation of that property in 2011. We are a school district library. Some people might not know that, even though we are a Pataskala library, we do follow Southwest Licking as our taxing authority and our boundaries. However, if you can get a library card, anybody in Ohio can get a library card at our establishment. Revenues, we bring in about 65% of our revenues from the state, and then about 33%. The rest of it comes from a half mil levy that this community passed back in 2007, and it's been renewed twice. But what I came in here today talking about is just some of the programs we've added over the past 9-10 years since we moved back into that facility. We like to partner, we like to collaborate. We don't turn down ideas. Any idea is a good idea. We'll try it. If it doesn't work, we'll try to fix it and make it work. We are very involved in the community. We recently just started outbound services for homebound residents who can't reach and can't physically come into the library. We have an employee that goes out monthly and delivers materials to homebound residents. We also visit Tuscany Gardens, Pataskala Oaks monthly and deliver materials to them as well. We recently partnered with the other libraries in the county to add, you've probably heard through the state, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, where you can, any child between the ages of 0 and 5 can get a free book sent to their residents each month. So it's a great program. All you have to do is have the child sign up for it. We're also part of CLC, which is the Central Library Consortium. So we partner with Columbus Metropolitan Library, Fairfield County, Delaware County, Pickerington, a number of other libraries, and be able to share resources, share materials with one another. It's a great thing for the residents. Recently added Works Passes. So if your family come in and get a Works Pass and go use it at the Works. Dolls Passes. I know they just recently added a kind of a fee to go through Dolls, but now you can get a pass to Pataskala Library and use that to go to Dolls as well. We've added a number of clubs, Cookbook Club, Lego Club, monthly meets. There's about 40 kids that come regularly to that. It's always fun to watch them and what they have to create. Some things that we're looking into expanding sometime, hopefully this year soon, is adding hotspots. We want to be able to circulate hotspots to the residents of this community. So they can come in, check out a hotspot, take it home for 2 weeks, and then use it as their Wi-Fi at home. There will be no limitation on how much data they can use. It will be all paid for by us. The other thing that we're kind of looking into, and we talked to Mayor about this a little bit, is maybe adding Wi-Fi to the parks. Our first park that would be interesting to us is Municipal Park because of the pool. It's one of your smaller parks, but if we were able to partner with the city and add Wi-Fi service to the parks there, the library would pay for it, we would have somebody provide the equipment and upkeep for that. That's basically their comments. I want to say thanks, and I guess I'll take any of your questions that you may have for me at this time.
Anything for Jeff tonight?
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
And I enjoy partnering with you on, we work together on our dates so we don't have any conflicting dates because you ran the zoo and and have your food
Movie
truck
nights.
rally and your movie nights. So thank you for your participation and working with me and the city.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak tonight?
Is it now?
It's your time, yeah.
All right.
Need a name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
All right. This is Mark Graham, 671 Heidelberg Court, Northwest Lancaster, Ohio. I'm talking about the rezoning on Mill Street. Just wanted to mention, passed out some papers earlier. Just wanted to go over, because there were some comments at the last meeting, and tried to pick up those comments and kind of be able to explain some of those. You'll notice the first page, I think, on what I've given you is the floodplain overlay of our proposed tracks on that development. You'll notice the blue shaded area around Muddy Fork Creek, that is the 100-year floodplain, that is the regulated floodplain. You will see that blue area only enters into our 6.6 acre tract there in the back. So the regulated floodplain only impacts that one lot, and only a very small portion of impact on that lot. The red on that map, and these floodplain overlays are from the Licking County GIS. The red on that map represents the future anticipated 100-year floodplain, so that I assume that's an area that might also end up being regulated. It also doesn't impact any lot other than the very back portion of the 6.6 acre. And then you can see the yellow area that's outlined, that is the 500-year floodplain. So that is an area of minimal impact and generally an unregulated area in the 500-year floodplain. You also notice on our 2.397 acre lot on the far right, that does have some of the 500-year floodplain enter into it, but it's only in the woods back in the back corner of the tract. And we've actually, there were comments about one-site septic, and we've rushed out, got Larry Tornaz, soil scientist, to go out and start evaluating the tracks. We were confident that we weren't going to have an issue. He's now done some soil testing. We picked that 2.397 acre tract to test first, because if you notice in that area, it's got a dark spot that we're trying to work around. It's got a depressional area that ponds a little bit. And the day of the site evaluation, there was some standing water in that area. And then someone else might comment a little further on that.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. I also wanted to hit on the roadway. There's a few maps in yours. There's a picture of Mill Street. There were some comments about the condition of Mill Street and the viability of the roadway to handle the traffic. In your package, there's a picture of Mill Street, and then I've got a presentation, sounds like at the next meeting I'll do, and also I think we're planning to be at the ward meeting tomorrow night, where we can answer any additional questions as well. But Mill Street, you'll notice attached to that picture of Mill Street, there's a letter, or an email that we received today from Alan Haynes, Public Service Director, City of Pataskala, discussing the repaving plan for the stretch of Mill Street in front of our property. So that it's already on the calendar to be repaved in 2020. Because there are some areas where the pavement's not in the best shape to do there. But that is already planned to be addressed. There's also a map showing the interaction between the City of Pataskala's property and the Licking County Parks property. We've evaluated the Licking County Parks property. They've owned it for 20-some years. They really haven't tried to work on their access there, but there's been some comments on that. We've evaluated their access using their existing road frontage. They have an access that's relatively level off the road and stays out of the floodplain to wrap around the property. But we've actually met, some of our associates have met with the Licking County Parks, with their board, and they've expressed interest in trying to work with City of Pataskala, because City of Pataskala has property that butts up to the Park District property. And City of Pataskala property has an existing driveway back to that property. And Licking County Parks sound like they are wanting to pursue some type of joint venture with you guys to develop that as parkland. Like I said, we'll be available tomorrow night with more questions, and then maybe we can put on a bigger presentation after that.
Yeah, in the essence of time, I'd like you to work with,
We will.
if people have a presentation, let's work with our zoning director, let's get it on the agenda so it can be planned time-wise, so we don't run into what we ran into 2 weeks ago and
Right.
stuff like that. So-
Yeah, we're trying to listen to what comments we hear so we can then address.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak tonight? Ma'am?
Hi, Jerica Zuckerman, 6368 Summit Road Southwest. I'm here in regards to the Summit Road development you guys heard about 2 weeks ago, I believe it is, and we're back again. I was at several of the meetings for planning and zoning. It was a lot brought up, a lot of issues addressed. At the end of things, we felt that it was a very, for us at least, a positive outcome. They did not recommend the project for many reasons. Some of which, just bringing up the obvious, I know that the city doesn't deal with the schools, you know, we just have to kind of partner and figure things out, but every past development we've brought, you know, that's been brought forward, the superintendents have showed up and said, this is gonna cripple us, you know, that this just isn't responsible in a sense. You know, they've been offered 10-acre chunk out of this on Cleveland Road. Who's gonna take care of that property and everything until they develop it? You know, that ends up on the taxpayers. But at this point, you know, the super has been quiet about it. But we all know we just passed the levy. We just built a new building. We're talking about an average house having 2 to 3 kids. You're talking 400 to 500 more kids right on Summit Road, where all the buses go, where all the traffic is. It's a zoo there in the morning. It's a zoo there in the afternoon. And then forget Broad Street. I mean, the lines just even going into the school are crazy. In addition to that, this hadn't even brought up in the planning and zoning meetings because this wasn't an issue at the time. We're talking about a 0.5% potential tax levy for the police department, which I fully support. I think that it's important. I think that our ratio is completely not there. We need more officers. We need a better budget. But we're talking about adding in 400 to 600 people in a very dense community. We don't even have the police power for what we have. We need more, and I think, you know, putting a pause on cluster development, which this area isn't even, we've been talking about in the comprehensive plan, putting this as the, what did you call it, conservation suburban, where you have approximately 1 house per 2 acres. This is the opposite direction. This isn't the direction that the comprehensive plan was taking us. I know it hasn't been signed in, but that's the direction that the vision saw for this area. And I think that, you know, that in addition to the obvious diversions they were asking for, the drainage issues in the area, and all that factored in, planning and zoning had not recommended the project. And I would strongly recommend looking into these issues and anything else that you can think of at this point before we go ahead and allow a development of this size and this density up Summit Road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? I'm trying to go down.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Holmes, 6334 Summit Road Southwest. Jerica covered several of the issues, like one of the big things is the comprehensive plan, and it seems as though we should try and follow that. I know it's recommendations, but I think they're very good recommendations. A lot of the recommendations in the comprehensive plan are address some of the infrastructure issues in that area, such as Summit Road itself, which has just been a chip and tar road for years, has no shoulder. There's inadequate drainage all up and down, but especially at that site where they wanna put the cluster development. They ought to do a 100-year storm drainage, study on that area. I heard they did a much less, drainage assessment there. So following the comprehensive plan, to me, is huge. We put a lot of time and effort into that. The other concern Jerica brought up, do we have control over that 10-acre gift to the school after it's given to the school? Seems as though the school doesn't really follow the zoning recommendations very well. So that'd be an issue, because to put a bus depot or garage there would not work on Cleveland Road at all. I'm sure you all know what the condition of Cleveland Road is. Let me see. Another thing the comprehensive plan brought up was maintaining a rural character in the area, and putting in 2.6 units per acre would not equal rural. One other thing is, Ms. Clima says that they've addressed and answered all the questions. Well, they haven't. There are still many pieces of divergent information that have not been answered. If they dispute that, go back and look at the zoning board's minutes when they voted to put down the development. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm Akane Clima, P.O. Box 991, Task, Ohio. I'm going to speak on two different matters tonight, the first being Summit Road. The comprehensive plan is being followed. The gentleman was speaking of the comprehensive plan that is not yet approved. We are in accordance with the future land use plan as it is now approved with the city of Pataskala on this particular development. In addition, all the stormwater plans and all of those things, and floodplains and all those types of required studies were done. And as I discussed at the public hearing, the stormwater issues are great, and they are being addressed in accordance with what our engineers and your engineers believe will help address the existing issues that are not brought on by this property. The diversions that the gentlemen speak of that we still have are diversions because mostly of the stormwater. We have a larger setback from Summit than that's one of the diversions, so that we have our landscaping behind the retainage areas and push the houses back farther from Summit, and also a signage diversion, but mostly about stormwater, having more space used for open space as stormwater than you typically would allow. So I could go through that list, but I won't. Right now, I'm available if you have questions. You can call me by phone or email me, and I can leave my number is 614-374-8488. I also want to say that when we were at the public hearing, I was asked by a council member, even though the architectural design standards are not yet approved, would this development comply? This development would not be required to comply, but I went back to my client and said, what of those things are you going to be able to comply with? And there were some of which their current plans had not been abiding by, and they decided that they would go ahead and make their design more in accordance with the standards that are not yet approved. I'm going to pass this out, and it gives a summary of those standards and also how we are now complying. So they've gone a long way. We've worked on this a lot to make certain that your architectural standards, almost all of them except for the garage setback that I mentioned, and the porch sizes, most everything is complied with, or maybe complied with in what they believe might be a better way, might be something you might want to consider when you're approving your final standards. So that is what I want to explain for Summit Street, and please call me, because there have been a lot of discussions about it and people coming in and saying they're concerned about certain things, but they're not telling you some of the information that explains to you that those matters have been addressed. Most importantly, stormwater. In regard to the school, we went back to the school, and I've been trying to contact Dr. Wagner to explain to him that there's an issue about a bus garage being there, and if they would be willing to agree to not use it as for a bus garage, but be willing to hold it or use it for some other matter, or if they want to give that up. It's not something that's required by our development because it's not part of our open space, So we never thought that their request for 10 acres would be something that everyone would be so opposed to, but it is what it is, and people are somewhat opposed because of that potential use. In regard to the Mill Street property, I represent the actual original landowners that also own the rest of the farm that is currently up for sale. This, actually, your future land use plan shows this is a mixture of commercial and retail. And the developer that bought this north portion literally wants it to be R87, which is 2 acres and larger. Very interesting too, that if you go down Mill Street, adjacent to the property is a lot of 1.57 acres. Adjacent to it is a lot of 1.02 acres. Adjacent to it is a lot of 0.89 acres. Adjacent to it is, across the street from it is a lot of 0.82 acres. Across the street from that is a lot of 3 acres. So you have a lot of 2 and less and a little larger acres being used there for people's homes, which is what this company wants to do. This company is asking for nothing less than 2 and greater. I think it's something that should be supported, and of course, my client supports it. Thank you.
And as I told the gentleman too, if you wish to make some type of presentation, get with Scott so it can be planned and put on the agenda so you can have more time.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other citizens' comments? Anybody wish to speak tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Jody Bowen, 13645 Cleveland. I'm speaking in reference to the SAGE program. Some of my neighbors have already brought up some of my concerns, and you've already heard some of them. One of the things that I wanted to point out is the fact that with this 10 acres in particular, is Cleveland Road, if you look, is one of the 3 or 4 streets in Pataskala because of how it came in to the city that has no right-of-way. So maybe that's a consideration why this 10 acres has been excluded, because that's the only access that's there. I don't know that. That's just speculation on my part.
Okay.
But I will say that I attended, I believe, all of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, and at the final one, they voted to disapprove that. And I think that's a large consideration for this council to consider, that these are people that spend a lot of time on it and looked into that, and they felt that disapproving it was the right way to go. I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask a question or not.
I don't want you to ask any questions.
Okay.
If you ask a question, we'll get the right party to answer it, but not here at this meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I do that at the comments at the end?
You can go ahead.
Nothing about,
You
well,
can-
it's about information not available on the website.
Okay.
So I'll get with someone after that.
Chris Sharrock is our administrator. Raise your hand there. If you get with him after the meeting, he'll get your name, phone number, and
I appreciate
and he'll
that.
take your question and get back with you as soon as he can, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak tonight?
Yeah, hi, I'm Donovan Kuhn, 13283 Hawthorne Road, Thornville. I wanted to speak a little bit. I actually was the one who did the soil testing, met with the soil scientist out of the Mill Street project. Just wanted to briefly touch base on that a little bit more. The soil scientist there, Tornos, 30 years experience. We went through a lot of the stuff so we could get to the meeting tonight to be able to present some things. And the layer for the glacial till out there is 60 inches or over 6 feet on some of them. And the soil scientist felt very strongly that soils are not going to be any problems throughout the whole project. He actually thought they were excellent, very good. As far as the lot size is concerned, there's lots of different options. The only bad one we had was the first lot, which we included the info for your guys' review, but it shouldn't be any issues. Larry was very positive on that. I'm actually working, I sent the information over to the health department. I should have pre-approvals. Hopefully the next time I come in here, I can give you guys in writing pre-approved lots for hopefully all of them. That being said, I also wanted to talk briefly about the parks. At the planning meeting, it was kind of a big thing, and it was a concern for everybody. And I just wanted to touch base. I was actually at the Parks Board meeting a couple weeks ago when they actually drafted the resolution saying that they're not against what we're doing out here. And we are, we at the meeting, the Parks Department really would like to work with the city of Pataskala, it sounds like. I mean, they're extremely interested. They don't have Licking County Parks doesn't have a presence in this area. They feel like, people feel like Columbus is, they're more attached to this area because they don't have the parks and that type of stuff, so they're extremely interested in working with you guys. They do share almost a 600-foot common border as well, which makes it nice. Connie spoke a moment ago, the Powell family who donated this land years ago. I've talked to Mr. Powell. They seem extremely in support of our project and what we're trying to do. He likes the view. He likes what we're doing. The 2+ acres looking out across there. The future use plan has a much higher density. He doesn't want that, and his family donated the parks. He feels like he should. His words to me, like he should have some say. As far as his opinion matters, I guess. But and it sounds like they were gracious enough to even talk about donating a little bit more land to improve the park access. Plus, the existing access from the city of Pataskala is actually already in, and it just makes sense if city of Pataskala was willing to work with the Parks Department, that it would solve the parks issue, and they have a ready-to-use access. It would be a wonderful park for everybody. And I think as far as traffic is concerned, we had some citizens voice opposition. They were really worried about what our project would do for traffic. We're only going to have 7 residential home sites. They're going to be probably do a lot for tax base around there too, I'm assuming. But as far as road upkeep, I don't think it's going to be terribly detrimental to the roads. The traffic that 7 homes brings. But the Parks Department in the back, they plan on developing that land. That's going to bring a lot more traffic down the road than our project is. And I think that's something that I think maybe wasn't brought up, but maybe should. Our impact, I don't think is going to be that much in comparison to maybe the parks impact, But I think that's going to be a positive thing for the whole area. I mean, everybody likes the parks, and I guess that's all I have for tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak? All right, seeing none, we will move on to interviews for Personnel Board of Review. Is that you tonight, sir?
Sure, I'll give you a break, Mayor. You read all those numbers at the public hearing. You must be exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
Take a nap.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have interviews tonight for the Personnel Board of Review. We have 2 applicants, so I'm going to ask Tim Powell. Mr. Powell, come on up. Sir, state your name, please, and for the record. Thank you.
My name's Tim Powell, and I reside at 265 Pat Haven Drive.
Very good. Thank you. So we have your application. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be reappointed to the board.
I've been a resident here in Pataskala for 25 years, and we've raised our family here. And I just finished a term on the Personnel Board of Review, and it was a great experience. I did not come to the board with a lot of the legal background that a lot of the other members did, but I come more from a lot of years of experience of working with people and understanding that. It's been great to work with department heads and to be able to help them in their process of ferreting through some resumes and getting things going. And I was thinking about this afternoon, and here's how I look at our job. We're kind of like, in a very small way, but in what we do, we're kind of like firemen in that we give out a lot of advice and for at least for our city how to protect themselves in the process of making the right decisions. And we also have another aspect that since I've been on the board we've never had to use, and that's dealing with issues of appeal issues. And so we're kind of like sitting there waiting if there is ever that those kinds of issues, we're there ready to help. It's kind of like the firemen. I'd rather not have them ever have to show up at my house, but when I do, I'm sure glad that they're available. So that's how I kind of look at what we do. But that's been kind of my involvement there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions? Council members have any questions for Mr. Powell?
I guess I want to confirm, you've had 1 term?
Yes, I've had 1 term.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Hicken. Anybody else any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Powell. Appreciate it. Thank you. And the next applicant is William Cook. So Mr. Cook, okay. Just name and address, please, and tell us why you'd like to be on PBR.
William Cook, 419 Oak Meadow Drive. I have applied for this job because I want to work on a board or committee for the city. I've not recently, 4 years ago we moved into Pataskala, although we lived in the area for a long time previous. Our kids have all gone to actually Southwest Licking schools, And we did move away for a while, and we're back in the area, and I'm fully retired now, and I'm just looking for things to do that are helpful to the community.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Cook? Any questions for Mr. Cook? Going once, twice, three times? Okay, Mr. Cook, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. All right, and we'll be looking for a motion to appoint somebody later on this evening on the motions. Mr. Mayor, get a rest?
Thank you.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Here we go. Introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow and seconded by Mr. Epperson. Discussion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to point out that on the consent agenda, we have several motions that have to do with the applications for agricultural district. Actually, all of them that were heard tonight, both at the committee level as well as the public hearing. And I wanted to point out that through the committee's hearing, we had no objections to any of these, and also made a motion to have them included on the consent agenda.
Absolutely.
Very good. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Walther,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. Just so everybody knows, Brian Zetz is on vacation, probably has one of those drinks with the umbrella in it right about now, and filling in is David Mosier. Welcome, David.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, we'll go into reports. Let's see here. Mr. Barstow, what do you got?
I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Does the law director have anything?
Mr. Zetz did not have anything, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. And Chris, I'm only gonna call you this once, acting city administrator, and after this, it's you get the administrator, okay? You're city administrator
It works.
until further notice. So Chris, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to give 3 different reports via the administrator, utilities, and parks for Mr. Crawford. I'll start with administration. There are 2 resolutions on the agenda tonight, 2020-13 and 2020-14. 13 is very similar to years past. It's the GIS program that the city runs. The contract going to Hall to continue doing that. We have 1 contract, and the 3 departments that utilize that service are itemized in that contract with utilities, public service, and zoning, planning and zoning. Resolution 14 is a resolution for Hall to continue to perform our construction plan review services. In years past, this has always just been assumed to be part of the general engineering retainer. But this year we looked at it, and in an effort to be conservative, we figured that by the time the year is over, we will be over the $10,000 limit. Going through this, we wanted to bring it to council. It's a little bit of a different program. The money for this is funded by the person who submits the construction plans. So they set the money into an escrow account. Hall does the plan review, they invoice us, and we pay it that way. So at the end of the day, it's a net zero coming out of the city's coffers, but it does go through our process. So to be conservative, we thought we'd bring that resolution to council. There is a small update on the Sterling Theater AC. Mr. Tim Madrid came back, took some more measurements, talked to him for just a little bit. He didn't have anything concrete, but he was pretty confident that the project we're looking for and the budget that we have, we should be able to make this work. So it's good news coming from him. He's going back to finish up his presentation, and I'll bring it to council and get it. The remaining electric poles that are on Main Street, spoke with Chris Peters from CS Electric. He is still waiting on information from AEP before they can complete the disconnects and the reconnects, and Chris can get the electric lines run to the individual houses. He was estimating that it would be a couple more weeks before he got the information he needs from AEP back. And lastly, for the administrator report, I have contacted AEP and asked them about the pole on Main and Mill Street. They said that is a major feed point for the area going down 310 to the southwest there, like Tasca Ridge area and Hazleton Town Center, down where the restaurants are. There's also a major protection device that is on that pole. And he was just spitballing, it would have to go to engineer to get an actual quote, but his estimation was anywhere from $75,000 to $95,000 to remove that one pole and put the electric underground. So in regards to that, I guess I'd be looking for some guidance from council on, direction to take regarding that pole. That's all I have for the administrator report.
Anything for Chris as far as what he's just discussed? Mr.
Chris?
Aiken?
Do you anticipate, bidding the resolution 2020-14 next year?
So I think that, moving forward, it would be a good plan to, as we've done with other contracts like this, to put out an RFP at the beginning of every year, just like we did this year for, legal services and for general engineering. Like I said, this one was a little bit of an anomaly that came out in years past. It was, just kind of included into that. But after speaking with Mr. Betts and taking a conservative approach, we thought we'd bring it in resolution form. But yeah, in the future, I think it'd be a good idea if we did an RFP for this service as well as all the others.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, I was asked over the weekend, just a quick update, and if you don't have the answer, just to follow up next meeting is fine. Seems like progress has kind of stopped on Main Street a little bit. Where are we at with getting the poles down and everything? I believe it was with the electrician, not AEP, but you can just check on that.
Yeah.
Also, there was, Mrs. Hayes, at her last meeting, she had reported that the Ivory Barn owner was concerned with the placement of the transformer on the small lot that they had bought. I was asked if there was any follow-up on that or resolution, if you could look into that.
I have nothing to give you this time, but I'll definitely look into that.
Fair enough, so.
Absolutely.
Is that all, Mr. Lee?
Yep.
Well, Mr. Schrock asked us for some direction on the poll, so I think we should maybe have a discussion on that. Sure. See what, I think of both, but see what the sense is. My view would be, no harm, no foul, finding out what the actual cost is, finding what the actual cost is, and, then we can discuss how unsightly that poll is vis-a-vis the actual cost. I think is what it's gonna come down to me, so, I know Mr. Walters got some.
Sometimes the poles can also be relocated, so they may be able to feed from a different route. So instead of potentially having to go underground, maybe the pole could be relocated into our park area or even another area adjacent that could then feed further to, it sounds like, to the south.
Yeah.
I know that they can do that. It may be much cheaper than putting a major feed underground. Typically, those are gonna be manhole and duct, type things, which make them expensive. So I would suggest looking at that option also.
Well, to Mr. Walters' point, they may have thought, oh, everything else is underground, they must want this underground too.
Exactly.
So let's just tell them, it doesn't necessarily, I don't think necessarily has to be underground at this point, if it's
Relocated.
Relocated to an area that may be more,
Right.
less, presented on the street, on Main Street at least. That may be a worthwhile option.
Tim?
I would echo those thoughts on all that stuff. I will add that, I also asked the administration about the transformer next to Ivory Barn. The transformer was originally not placed on the Ivory Barn's property. It was placed on property that was not owned by them and subsequently purchased. The administration was looking into confirming that an easement was in possession of the electric company to put the transformer there. And that easement, as I understand it, would transfer with the property on purchase. But the administration had not seen that. So just a kind of a heads up for you, I'm sure it has stopped now until you got in and get your feet wet and get going on it. But that's something to look at.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I agree with everything that was just said. I was not on council when that project was approved. I was just coming into council when it actually started. But the feedback that I've gotten from residents, and not a lot, but a few, was that the project was promised to be from mill to the railroad tracks as far as underground. With that being said, this seems like an oversight, in the engineering or somewhere along the lines. But I think we at least owe it to them to get a final number and look at other options, but that's a lot of money for one pole. It's hard to justify that kind of money for that pole, but I also feel like we're obligated to do our due diligence for the people that are expecting mill to the railroad tracks, so.
Well, as we've said, the word relocation sounds a lot cheaper. So let's just look at every option we can. Any other discussion on that part of Chris's report? Okay, sir, what's next?
Thank you. Appreciate the guidance on that. We go to utilities. I just want to give you an update. January 21st, we started our sewer main cleaning of what we call trouble areas, areas that get a lot of grease built up, Old Town that have some roots built up in them. We do them every year, and it took a little bit longer than we anticipated. They had our contractor had some emergency work they had to get pulled off for, but within 2 weeks we had all the work done to keep those sewer mains flowing. We also, in the land application biosolids world, the EPA does a 5-year inspection for areas that have biosolids applied to them. This is our 5 years that are coming out in March. As part of that inspection, we are also going to just go over our procedure. As you're aware, we're trying to bring that project back in-house as opposed to outsourcing it. So we're going to sit down and it's an inspection / training session to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row before we bring that program back in-house as opposed to going to agri-sludge. So that's coming up here in March. And then for the Parks Department, Mr. Crawford is respectfully requesting to keep ordinance 2019-4357 on the table for this meeting. And that's all he had. That's all I have for my 3 reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Which number stays on the table?
2019-4357.
Very good. Any questions for Chris on either utilities or parks? Go ahead.
Parks, and this is a question for you, Mayor, also. The swearing in of Jenny Ashbrook for the parks, is that
Tomorrow night,
going to be
before the
done?
meeting. Before the meeting, I will swear
board
her in
meeting?
tomorrow night. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Kathy, for the paperwork. I got it right here. Got the Bible. We're all ready to go. I'll swear her in tomorrow night. Thank you. Anything else for Chris on parks or utilities? Kind of lonely down there, aren't you, Mr. Epperson? Hang in there. Okay, let's see. Mr. Nicholson, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Mayor. You guys have a copy of my report. On the agenda tonight, we have Resolution 2020-12, which is the renewal of our property casualty liability coverage policy, which will go into effect February 19th through the following February 19th. Bottom line, it pretty much is a push year over year, which on the face of it, that's okay. But that also doesn't take into consideration we had about a $4,500 increase in our premium due to the fact that we now have a very large facility behind us. So, but for that, we would have seen a reduction in our premium. So, I'm pretty pleased with how everything's turning out on that. So, I'm asking council for that authorization. I also had the opportunity tonight to meet with the 2 new council members to talk about government finance and the exciting stuff that we do here, and they both looked enthused. But I appreciate them taking the time to meet with me and kind of get a primer of the budget process, supplementals, talk about capital planning and the budget process. So I think it's a good opportunity to make that connection as we go into the next cycle. That's all I have.
Very good. Anything for Tammy? All right, thank you, sir. Alan?
Thank you, Mayor. In Mel's absence, I've been asked to do the street committee chair report as well. We'd like to do all of that now because everything I had was part of that anyways. So, okay, I'll jump right into the street committee report then. First item we discussed was the Town Street trunk sewer. This was at our January 28th meeting. Town Street trunk sewer is, of course, the project to address our Vine Street issue. First thing on that is we're still working on plans, getting everything together, so I don't have all the answers as far as schedule and budget yet. I'm hoping this Thursday when we do meet, we'll we'll have a lot more of those answers and be able to move forward more certainly. Right now, what we're looking at is on the February 18th council meeting, having an emergency supplemental to fund that project. Right now, my estimate is roughly $250,000 for that project. Again, I'll know more after Thursday. The good news on that is we did have out of the 2018 streets program and the 2019 streets program about $150,000 in savings that was not factored into the 2020 budget. So we're able to fund a fair amount of that out of savings. And then potentially, depending on how Thursday goes, at the February 18th meeting or the March 3rd meeting, having a resolution for a contract. Again, we want to make sure the contractor has all the information, the engineer's far enough along that we're not doing anything that's stupid, I guess. Moving on from that one, intersection safety and capacity study. That's where we're looking to do an ODOT safety application to fund improvements at the intersection of Summit and Broad. Anticipate bringing a resolution to council for that, for the application itself, for the same engineer that did the safety and capacity study to do that application. That is per ODOT's recommendation to go ahead, move forward with the application, and then come back if we get funded and put out an RFP for the project. We discussed the 2020 streets program. That will be, we're looking to bid back probably early March. And then as far as project updates, we talked about Oak Meadow Drive. The contractor will be back when the weather allows to do everything at once. We didn't want them coming back and doing a little bit and then leaving and coming back, so that people were wondering what's going on. So they'll be back probably end of April, beginning of May to finish up everything on that project, the sidewalks and restoration and such. Pataskala Safe Travel Plan, phases 1 and 2, a little bit of punch list work left on that, but they're nearly done. And they'll be back again, same scenario once the weather's a little bit better to finish up the restoration. Phase 3, that one is designs in progress. Looks like we'll probably be bidding that sometime in spring. I don't have very good dates on that one yet. Our Taylor Road drainage project, we'll probably be ready to bid that one in March. A little bit finalizing the plans and coordinating with the street committee, but we're really close to getting that one done. And then the fencing on Taylor Road, this was for the Taylor Road Path project. We added some safety fence in a couple of locations. That is almost done. There's some areas that the contractor missed. They will be coming back to put flares on the section of the road. Certainly that's what we're talking about there. It's just kind of a blunt ending. And also to make it look a little more aesthetic, we're going to get a proposal from that contractor to put some boards on the roadside to make that look a little better. It looks kind of raw and unfinished, so we'll see what they come back with and take that to the street committee once we have numbers. We talked about Monarch Drive as part of drainage issues. We did get the outlet structure installed on that retention basin. It does seem to be functioning very well. Two other things we talked about. One was Heritage Town Center. The developer there, this is where the Mexican restaurant is on 310 in Rusty's Wharf. The developers requested us to open up the northern access point that's currently a right in, right out to a full access. So we're working with them to see what that would look like, get us the information we need, and again, we'll take that through the streets committee to make sure that we're all comfortable with that. And finally, we just briefly talked about speed limits throughout the city. I think a lot of the speed limits we have are 35. We're just put into place automatically when the village and the township merge. So we're going to take a little bit more comprehensive look at that to see if there's places where we can up that to 45 on roads that are 35 currently. So we'll be working through that this year. A lot of information there. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir. Just a quick question, a couple quick questions. Mill Street, it says in the 2020 program that you're planning on having that part of the ramp.
Correct.
And I know in your email you said something about leveling and doing some other things. Is there, obviously that road is substandard in width, are you planning on any extra berming on that, or what, can you give us a little bit of description of what?
Similar to what was done on Corridor Road before my time, we're planning to, so there will be some repair and then the leveling course, because there's places where the cross slope is pretty significant. And then we're going to add berm, we'll do a leveling course and then overlay the whole thing with an 1.5 inch, add berm and then chip seal over the berm. So it's not exactly widening, because that's going to get a lot more expensive pretty quickly, but it at least gives a little bit more room to work with.
Okay. And as far as any kind of culverts under the road, are there any plans for any of those to be fixed ahead of time, or have they already been done?
We replaced the.
I know you did the major ones.
Yes, that's the major one, and then specifically for drainage, on the north side of the road, there's a spot that's pretty significantly deteriorated there. It's similar to what we did on Headley's Mill this
Is that where
past
the
year.
curb's going?
We're gonna add some curb and gutter to channel that water to keep it from moving out the road.
Great, thank you.
I'm glad you're looking at up in some of those rural areas. That's fantastic. I get asked that a lot. So thank you for working on that. If everything fell into place for Summit and Broad intersection, what would be best case scenario that would actually happen?
So it's looking very likely. From my understanding, the governor is putting a lot of money into the ODOT safety program, and they're looking to try and fund a lot of that. And speaking with ODOT, Ty Thompson over there's most of the applications in District 5 over the past few years that have been put in have been funded, if not completely, at least partially. So I would anticipate from what it looks very good that we would get some funding for that. Typically, it's at least 80-20, 80% ODOT, 20% the city. We would find that out probably about mid-year, and then we would go to design. Obviously, there'd be a little bit of right-of-way to acquire there. Take a couple years before we're actually able to start construction.
Who puts us in for that? Do you?
That's the resolution would be for a consultant to put that application together. So that, of course, they do the intersection safety capacity study that covers the entire city. For the ODOT application, you have to be very specific, come up with more or less what your plan's going to be, put cost estimates to that, really dial down into the details of that intersection specifically.
Okay, thank you. And we talked about this in leadership. Knowing when we start paving and backing up, how are we with the ramp proceeding forward so that we're paving right when we're able to pave and get all our projects done before winter? Are we on track with ramp?
I'm hoping to go out to bid at the end of this month, beginning of next. So yeah, we should be looking pretty good for that.
Yes, sir.
I had a quick follow-up. As far as the drainage work that you're proposing for the Vine fix, I know you put in your report, an estimated, looks like an estimated value of between $200,000 and $250,000 for that. Will you and Jamie be able to bring kind of a game plan for how it's going to affect the budget? I'm hopeful it doesn't affect the ramp budget, and that you guys are finding funds in some other bucket.
So the first $150,000, like you said, was coming from the savings from the last 2 years, which, when we built our 2020 budget, it's assumed that all that gets used, and of course it didn't. So that's just coming out of the past 2 years' savings. And then the rest of it, I know that there was savings in the 2019 budget that otherwise, and then I anticipated that coming not from the 2020 budget and affecting anything that's budgeted here, but from our bottom line, 30 to 35% of our operating budget carryover for that remaining 50 to 100,000.
Okay, this is not argumentative at all, but I'm not trying to, but out of the 2018 budget, I know we spent some of that savings on various projects. I'll go back to my notes and figure out what we spent that on, but I know that some of that was allocated for other projects. We used it for instance, some of the sidewalk work that was down there on,
Oak Meadow.
yeah, and some other things. So just want to make sure we're not double counting anything. I know I'm asking if you'll look into that and make sure we have a good, explanation of where that money's coming from and what wasn't spent. How's that?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fair enough.
Appreciate it.
So, and Jamie, the question to you is, have we started receiving the increased collections from the gas tax, which we would use for roads? And if so, what's now that I'm assuming it's being collected, I hope it is, I'm paying for it when I buy it, but.
Yeah, we started receiving those last summer, and that's in the intergovernmental category of in the street fund, and it's definitely up. Even this month, I think over last year was up maybe $38,000 in January versus January a year ago.
Okay, so that to Mr. Walters' question, that's going to help us a little bit.
Oh, it helps us a lot.
That's what I was kind of asking. Thank you, Todd. That
Sure.
was just seeing where this was going to come from.
Yeah, that's helped the street fund quite a bit.
Thanks.
Good point. Yes.
Alan, I had a resident on Mill Street ask me today, is from 310 to Columbia, is that all being paid? They were under the understanding that that was only being paid to the bridge, and then it was chip and seal from the bridge to Columbia.
So the base bid includes from Columbia Road to the bridge over the Muddy Fork. That'll get 1.5 inches of asphalt and then get chip seal over top of that.
Okay.
From Muddy Fork to 310, that is an alternate bid where we would be doing a mill and pave if we have enough money to accomplish that.
Right, but it will be, I mean, they were under this understanding that it was just a quick chip seal, patch up. It's actually
Yeah,
getting paid.
we're definitely doing repair, the leveling course and overlay, and the chip seal.
That's the way I understood it too, but I wanted to follow up because they got this from somebody that was working there on the culvert, told them that, and they were concerned about it, so I was just clearing the air.
Fair enough.
Anything else for Alan?
I would add one quick thing. He talked about speed limit changes. The area in front of Puerto Vallarta and the fish restaurant, Rusty's Wharf. One of the things that, when they talk about changing that to right in, right out, you had talked to us about that, might necessitate a speed change.
I don't know that it would necessitate one, but it might factor into that discussion if we decide to change that last.
So, just an FYI.
But that would go down.
Yes.
Would.
Which honestly would match the other entrances to the city if we did that and might make sense for that development.
Yep. Okay.
And
Good
involving
point,
the traffic
John.
in that area.
Anything, Mr. Epson? Anybody else for Alan? Thanks for tackling all those tonight, appreciate it. Is Lanier not feeling well, or is he on an assignment, or?
Lanier's out of a conference.
Okay, on
Last
assignment,
weekend.
very good, thank you. All right, I believe Chief Brooks, you're up, sir.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, who
Left
did I
out
miss?
Mr.
Scott
Fulton.
Fulton, sorry.
Sorry, Chief.
He's had a busy night.
Thank you,
Scott, what do you
Mayor.
got for us?
Two things to highlight. There were no applications submitted, so we will not have a Planning and Zoning Commission hearing in February. And also, there's a motion on tonight's agenda to pick a day and time for the comprehensive plan workshop. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions.
Well, I appreciate what you've been doing, working with the landowner at the corner of Broad and 310 with the lighting issue. I saw that they put the shrouds up to
Yes.
Limit the light.
Yes.
The lighting factor for the gentleman across the street, so I'm hoping that that's taken care of. It looks really good.
From my understanding, it has worked and brought the glare down dramatically.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions for Scott? Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'm looking still, I'm
Well,
trying
just
to.
a comment, I noticed in your packet, you included the petition from the folks who want to turn Highlands, now closed Highlands Golf Course property into a park. And I had some folks contact me, various means about that. I don't know if there's anybody out there in the audience tonight, but just for the record, the property is valued at because there was a move to try to get the city to purchase that. The property is valued on the auditor's website at $1.1 million. I have no idea what its fair market value is, but that's where it sits right now. And I talked to several folks that said that's, our road budget for a couple of years, plus or minus, so it's really not, and the parks levy was turned down, so I think it's a nice idea, but I just don't know how practical it is, but I thought it was interesting that this garnered a lot of support. Theoretically, it would be nice if that could be a part, but I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, so. People were concerned about the zoning and all that sort of stuff, so.
I believe that lady's also reached out to Metro Parks and some other places to try and garner some attention, so, yeah.
Well, it would add even more beauty to the most beautiful ward in the city.
That's not the fourth ward.
Three.
Just saying.
Pataskal Square, where we at with Pataskal Square, sir?
I contacted them in January and stated, that our city administrators has accepted another position, will be leaving. That I just want to touch base as they had stated that they would have the Tassels were demolished by the end of 2019. As we see, that hasn't happened. I left a message, so I'm just going to continue following up until I can get some sort of response. But it is on my radar to keep following up with.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lee?
Yes, Scott, question on 4341 that's been on the table since summer. If that was brought off the table and discussed, does that need another reading?
Yes, if it was tabled on the third reading, it would need a fourth.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think there was some question as to whether there was changes or not. Would it need that? And I believe there were changes because it had to go back.
That's correct. So I believe, what was that? In July, the utility committee expressed some concerns and wanted some language added. In order to do that, it needed to return to Planning and Zoning Commission, which it did in December. It was recommended the amendment was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that's why it came back to council at this point.
Thank you.
Hey. Yes, sir.
I'd like to talk about that. I understand that, can we I'm gonna put it this way, so I don't get all mealy mouthed up here and stop my sentences. I understand that there may be some problems or questions from city council people about this particular piece of property. If we do pull this off the table tonight and go through that third reading, can those problems be addressed before the next and final reading, the fourth reading? Or, and I guess I'm kind of asking my fellow council people this question, as much as you, Scott. And if there are substantial or any changes to it, does it have to go back to plan?
There's two.
And if I might, let me just say, we know that the utility committee tightened down a lot of the stuff, and there were some innovative things done to make that project happen.
Mm-hmm.
That the utility committee was okay with, and ultimately council would have to be okay with. That's what we would be voting on essentially. But in the meantime, if somebody decided that we needed them to plant elm trees, and we all have a debate about it and say, yes, that's what must happen, will that necessitate another trip back down to that?
Short answer, yes. That if there is any amendment to the development text or any of the plans that were reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission in December that need to be included as part of the rezoning, then they would have to go back to Planning and Zoning Commission, because council only has the ability to either approve or deny the application. They can't add modifications the way the code's written.
And something did change in there, so I mean, I don't know, I guess we can't have the debate until we take it off the table, but I guess I would ask you as a department head over that, do you see the more beneficial thing to do? Take it off the table and have a discussion about it and see if those problems can be solved? Or do you see the more beneficial way to talk individually to the council members that have the concerns? Or do you have, I mean, or is it 6 half dozen?
I would say that it can be removed from the table and always retabled. Because if it were to proceed to then a fourth reading and then gets tabled again, I don't know if it needs then a fifth reading or how that would happen. And the one thing I would comment on is when we went through with the utility committee, there was the list of every concern. That way we were all on the same page and it wasn't ambiguous in terms of what the actual concerns are. So it could be discussed tonight and I can take notes. But with utility committee, we kind of took notes and said, here's what I got. Did I get everything? And then that's why we can have kind of the master list of here's all the concerns and everybody's on the same page. And then we can work towards addressing those concerns as a group.
Did that answer your question?
I'm trying to read between the lines of that answer. I think what you said was the better thing would be not to take it off the table, but.
If you'd like to discuss it, that's council's pleasure to move from the table. You can always retable it. I met with Mr. Walther probably a little over a week ago, and he expressed his concerns to me. And then I reached out to the applicants and said that, there's this, one council person has these concerns, and they stated that they, moving through the process, I think the desire is to have it removed from the table and move forward in the process, and they said they'd be willing to work with staff moving forward to address those concerns. So that would be, through construction plans, if approved for rezoning through construction plans and through the final plans. But that's only 1/7 of what the actual concerns are from council. So it's kind of a small picture that if I knew what all of them were, we can develop that master list and then everybody's on the same page. Instead of I know one and then, we know another, that we get it kind of all out there and then we can move forward on that.
Marcia? You have some input?
I'm done, thank you, sir.
Well, we kind of sort of had a discussion about 4341. I guess one of the things that, to me, that makes, being a council so flippin' exciting is asking to have something taken off the table and having it taken off the table and having a discussion and then seeing if somebody wants to approve it. So I think that, that just really gets your heart racing. I think that it sounds like you would like to have a discussion, so we'll see when we get to 4341, if it comes off the table, then we can have a big discussion about it.
Mhm.
And we can find out all our concerns.
All right, anything else for Scott? Chief Brooks?
Thank you, Mayor. Just, one item, some sad news, we lost Lieutenant Wheeler. He's a retired lieutenant from the department. We found him this morning. He retired, then he worked as the bailiff for Mayor's Court, so it's a sad day for us, and he'll be missed. That's all I have.
Yeah, he was just here last Thursday, right here in Mayor's Court. So, hard worker, and he'll be sorely missed, that's for sure. Anything else, Bruce?
No, sir.
Okay, anything for Bruce? Yes, sir.
Chief, I'd add one thing. I had talked to Ms. Carter tonight, and she made a request in her absence, and I said I would do it. And it's actually Tommy's ward, but it involves putting the radar trailers in on Woodside. She sees a lot of kids cutting through Woodside. I know that schools have made that concern. So I would at least pass the concern on. I know it's kind of seasonal, so you don't like to have it out in the freezing cold and the salt and whatever else, I'm sure. But whether it's officers or the radar things, she made that request.
We will work on that.
Thank you.
And just along the lines of the police station and the police department, you'll find on your desk the gun safety course that we're working on to have 4 separate seminars in February. It's been all over the internet, and if anybody out there wants to see this, I'll lay a copy over on the desk so you guys can check it out. You've got plenty of time to sign up. We've had 2 incidents in the last couple of months where we had some unsecured guns, and we're gonna do something about it. So, if you have any questions, ask me or the chief, and we thank Bullet Ranch in advance, and of course, we're gonna use our new PD training room for just that purpose. Thank you, Bruce. Any committee chair reports, Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm gonna do my best to fill in for Mel on the ad hoc committee. I'll need help, because I don't have any notes, and it's been a while, and it's been a long week, so.
Mr. Mayor, I will be recusing myself from this, any discussion regarding.
All right, let the record show that Mr. Hicken is recusing himself from this discussion.
Also, Kathy, if you'd like to chime in, feel free. But basically where we're at in a nutshell is the job has been posted. I believe, Jamie, you can help as well. Yes. Over here. Last Sunday.
Yes, and it also made it out onto ICMA's website, the Ohio branch of ICMA. We sent it to the OML. Morpsey only advertises their own positions. They don't advertise anybody else's jobs on their website. So that was a no-go. It has been advertised. And on the website, our website.
Yep, so it's out there. We've received, I don't know, I'm guessing between 15 and 20 applicants. We have not met since then. Our game plan is, well, let me back up. We decided as a group to not put a deadline on it and say applications are due by this date. We left it open to it says, for it to say that it's open until filled. However, we will begin reviewing applications on the 19th of this month. So we'll meet up again and we'll start going through applications. And we'll also decide what the next step moving forward on, after we look at the applications, we get an idea of what we have, and we'll determine the next step as far as interviews and how we're going to proceed and what that's going to look like. So I don't think I forgot anything, but if I did, go ahead, Andy.
Just one thing, we were gonna work on the rubric before that meeting, so we're updating that one from the last city administrator's job applications, so there'll be an updated rubric. And no, I think that it's working. Obviously, we're getting things through the emails and so forth, so that's
Where we're at.
that's where we're at.
Council, have any questions, suggestions for us, any direction?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Any other committee chair reports?
Mayor, we had a ag meeting this evening, or ag committee meeting this evening. I don't know if there's any need for an update other than we've passed the motion and we've passed the items that we passed the motion for.
Very good. Okay, on to unfinished business. Any desire to take ordinance 2019-4341 off the table?
I'll move, take it off the table. I'll
Got
second
a
that.
motion by Mr. Barstow and seconded by Mr. Lee. Discussion and roll to take it off the table.
Walter,
Yes?
Epperson,
Recuse.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. So, back to the original ordinance, ordinance 2019-4341 for a third reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr.
Second.
Barstow, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I did want to discuss this. As Scott had mentioned, I had,
Mr. At the point where we,
I understand.
Okay.
You're just having a roll call on the reading itself?
And then she'll read it, and then we'll go into discussion.
All right, so this does go
This is
for the
just-
third, this will be the third reading though, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
unless it's
Just making
tabled.
sure.
Yeah,
Got it.
okay. Go ahead, Kathy.
ordinance 2019-4341. This is the third reading, an ordinance to rezone properties located on Middle Ground Road Southwest, parcel number 064-0683322-00.009 and 064-0688087-00.000, totaling 136.32 plus or minus acres in the city of Pataskla from high-density residential district R10 zoning classification to the Planned Development District PDD zoning classification.
Okay, off the table and ready for discussion. Mr. Walther?
Yep, I've got, in reviewing the document that we were given dated December 6, 2019, I was part of the utility committee that put together the list of things that we had expected from the developer, and several of those items are not met in this development text, specifically including our request to have utility easements granted ahead of time. What it says in here is they'll grant utility easements on a lot-by-lot basis. So to me, that means that when lot number 34 comes in, there'll be an easement put on there. That may not be consistent with lot 65. There's no cohesive, obviously they don't have engineering plans yet. So without easements on here, that's one item that we wanted pretty clearly to have on the, within the development text. So that would be, and I can rattle through a couple items, we can talk about them, or however you guys want to do this, but that was one item. But the overall concern that I have with this is, we made a very conscientious effort to have the developer put in his text that if the sewer the force main, did not work in this case, that a gravity sewer would be solely the responsibility of these residents. And that was gonna be put in development text, that was gonna be put in deed restrictions, that was gonna be very clear throughout all of their title work that they would receive. So there weren't any questions, similar to what problems we might have had in other subdivisions. The issue that comes up in here is the roadways are being asked for a divergence. They're not being built to city standards at all. And there are roadways that are collectors, essentially, of private drives. There's drainage is not being put in here. There is a gated community. So, in my opinion, if this ever were brought back to the city to be asked to be taken as a city streets or city development, in essence, right away, public, I would believe we would not operate gates. We would not be responsible for that. This is relying on a homeowners association that could not be here in 20 years. And what really concerns me is we've gone to such a great extent to make sure that in their deeds they know they have to pay for the sewer lines to be upgraded if that were to ever have to happen. But there's nothing in here that says that if the city were asked to retake this as a public anything, that they are responsible for it solely. So that's one, meaning the residents that have purchased in this area. So I can easily see the scenario where a resident comes in, says, the homeowners association's gone, we want you to take over the roadway, I want it plowed, I want it this, I want it that, I pay taxes, you gotta come do it. So every resident in Pataskala will have to pay for that to be done. Now I have a serious problem with that in this development. There are many other things in here. There's 15 divergences that these guys want. And we're concerned about other places wanting 2 or 3. These guys want 15, quite a few. They're inaccurate on their wetland counts. And I've gone, like I said, I went through these with Scott. So what I understand from Scott and Chris is these guys have been very cooperative, and they are very happy to work with the administration. I don't want to speak for you guys, but that's what I understand. My problem is once this development text is approved by council, that's what it is. It doesn't get changed. If they put it in their civil plans, it's just one less item that is making it consistent for someone to go back to. And I'm going to say this, lawyers love to go back and find the weak links, and this is a weak link. I'll give you another example. There's 3 different references to how tree trimming can happen, and they're all done differently. So we were very specific about wanting to save the tree. If they're going to ask us to do these things, then we were asking them to be very specific about tree clearing. That didn't happen. So that's my concern with this. I don't feel comfortable passing it. I would rather than change it and bring it back to us correct, and then have a project as unique as this is, be as strong as we need it to be, so that councils 20, 25, 30 years from now are not handcuffed by what we passed that wasn't perfect. It wasn't as good as it could be. That's my personal opinion after reviewing this document.
Mr. Barstow?
My concerns are some of the same as Mr. Walker's. I don't have the engineering background that he does, but I do have a legal background. And that's a concern, is that homeowners associations go out of business. They go defunct because the homeowner, they're private organizations, and the homeowners decide they don't want to participate anymore. Nothing compels them to do that. You can't force the residents there to, we can't force the residents there to pay their homeowners dues or have an association. And so if they decided to fall through indifference or poor management, then those homeowners will come to the city and say, well, our street, you have to pave our street. That's not big, but this sewer aspect, and again, I don't have the technical background, but I just have some real concerns about this, that we it may not even be 20 or 25 years down the road, it may be 5 years down the road, that the folks in this HOA don't be bothered anymore. So, something goes wrong, then they're gonna come to us and ask us to fix it. And as Mr. Walter pointed out, that won't, when I say us, I mean the taxpayers in the city of Pataskla, will have to find a fix to that. And I just have a lot of concerns about that. So I've also read the comments and listened to the comments from folks who do not live in the city. Who live up in the Beechwood Trails neighborhood that's gonna be affected by this. And I've been up in that neighborhood, I know what their streets are like, it's in Harrison, and obviously it's in Harrison Township. But I just have some concerns about the impact that this development would have on the folks who live there. So, I mean, in theory, this is the kind of development we're looking for in the city. I mean, larger lots, things like that. But there's a lot of infrastructure issues with this that I just have some problems. With. So right now, I wouldn't be in favor of passing this ordinance either. And I appreciate all the hard work that the utility committee and everybody did on this. Administration put a lot of work into it. But I just have some issues with it. Thank you.
Well, I think both the sets of comments right there show us all exactly a hard needle to thread, and that is the needle of homeowners associations. How much do we put on them, and faith do we put in them? You certainly hear developers say the homeowners will be taking care of this and this and this in perpetuity, and we've heard that for multiple things. By the same token, it's not in the city, but basically a homeowner's fee, I think, is coming up and making it difficult for the Beechwood Trails pool. And that's a lesson learned as well. I think that the best thing to do is, I've always been a little squeamish, and we did put a lot of work into this. I'm a little squeamish about telling everybody on their titles, just so you know, we've bent over backwards to make this possible. We usually don't use this type of technology, but we're willing to see if it'll work. But it is gonna be inherent on you to make it better if it doesn't work. How much do you do that? How much? I bought houses, I don't know if I looked at the titles for 10 seconds. You know, somebody just says, here, sign, it's one of the 17 pages that you sign. So, you know, I hope that would go with it. I think that protects us legally. I don't know how good it does for the citizens. And the utility committee had a long debate about, look, in the end, if there's sewage running out of these homes, no matter what we put on the title, it's gonna be inherent on the city to fix, probably. The EPA doesn't care much about something you put in the title. But because it is the kind of homes that we say that we're interested in, I'd like to not totally flush the concept. So I think Andy's comments, Todd's comments, I don't need to pile on any more than that. Those items, if we can, I see Scott scribbling over there as he's keeping track of the comments, so that's good. I think the idea would be to take that back to the people. And the roads thing is new too. I want the gallery and council to know that originally we didn't think about the roads because they weren't gonna be private.
Well, and we didn't have this document either.
We didn't have, that's right.
So
I think that's a new development, is it not, Joe?
Yeah, it was.
I'm sorry.
Because there was discussions, because we met with Harrison Township in the beginning, when this started to come forward, because how unique it was with access, that could we trade plow areas, different
And that was
aspects to
their
that.
solution
And
was
Harrison
the-
Township said, we're not interested, and then the city said, we're not gonna drive all the way through Harrison Township to plow
I recall.
a road.
That's correct.
So that's why they said, you know what, we'll make them private.
Okay.
And we'll be responsible for plowing, maintenance, et cetera.
But I don't think we knew what the roads were designed to look like. So, that's my 10 cents.
Mr. Lee?
So it sounds like with, assuming that they're willing to do these things, which they, from all accounts, have been really good to work with, I do hate to have them send it back down and go through that again, but it is what it is. I think that one thing that I've heard, and I've talked to some people in Harrison Township and, even trustee over there, if they're going back to address these language issues, the concern from Harrison Township, I should say, when it comes to the roads is during construction, and granted it's not a ton of homes, but they're worried about any damages done to the road during construction. And who's responsible for that? And they've said verbally that they would take care of that, and I'm talking about the developer, but I think if we're changing language and have to go back, it'd be a good time for them to put that in there too, and I think that would ease quite a few concerns over Harrison Township for it to be in writing that anything done or damages done to the roads would be fixed. And, and not just being a handshake agreement.
Kathy, you have some input?
Just wanted to bring it to your attention that we did not have a roll call vote on the third reading,
Okay,
so you may want to do that.
let's go ahead and do that.
I thought we did. Yeah, we did.
We did. No, we didn't.
We had a motion and a second, we went right into discussion after I read it.
No, we went, you're right, we went right into discussion without a roll call. So,
Would you like a roll call now?
yes, please.
This is a roll call to do what? Because
It was for the third reading, we should have had a roll call.
Okay. Before you do that, Kathy, I don't know, this is a question for Mr. Moser. I seem to remember a roll of something, but that might have been to take it off the table.
That was to take it off
Yes,
the table.
it was to take it off the table, we did not have a roll on the third reading.
So, Mr. Moser, is it possible right now, before she takes the roll for the third reading, for me to make a motion to table it?
She's read it, so we're considering a roll call to go back in time and
Yeah, I
do
thought
or
so.
not do that.
Just-
Up to you guys.
Right, yeah.
But we
No,
did
we
put
should
the
do it
discussion
proper.
before the roll, so how do we fix that?
I think for purposes of the record, I go with Kathy. You should take a roll call to allow or not allow the reading, assuming you're going to allow it, and then take your motion on action on the motion.
Roll call,
On the
please.
resolution.
We did not do a roll to go into discussion, we went right into discussion. The only
We did
roll
not
that was
do a roll
taken.
to do the third reading.
Right.
But Kathy read it.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're purely correcting the record right now, is how I see it. Roll call for the reading, roll call for whatever action is going to be moved forward.
Epperson,
Refused on this ordinance.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yeah.
Lee,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Okay, so that, the motion passed, we've had our discussion, now we're back to, after the discussion, what's council's pleasure?
Well, I'm not gonna make the motion yet, but I
We're
was,
still in discussion then.
yeah, I would assume that we would want to retable the item. I realize it would necessitate possibly a fifth reading, but, or another fourth reading, but I don't know how that works. Kathy?
Kathy?
it doesn't, if we table it, if we have not amended it, it stays as a third reading, and until you amend it, it wouldn't go to a fourth reading.
That's correct. Only 3 readings. I was just checking my handy charter from Brian. Only 3 readings. So you're done with the readings. I agree with Kathy, correct. It would stay on the table until changed.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to place 20194341 on the table.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Higgins, seconded by Mr. Barstow to table. Do we need to, is it instantly tabled, or do you have to vote on that?
No discussion.
No discussion, Mr. Mayor.
No,
on the
yes.
table. Let's just go to vote.
Just roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and you remain recused.
Okay, 4341 is tabled. 4357 is tabled. Ordinance 2019-4354 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walther. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
And who made the motion on second? Right.
Andy was the second.
Yes. Mr. Hicken and Mr. Walter.
Ordinance 2019-4354, this is the second reading, an ordinance to rezone property located at 6031 Summit Road Southwest, parcel number 063-141-474-00.000, totaling 84.30 plus or minus acres in the city of Pataskla from medium low density residential R87 zoning classification to Plan Development District PDD zoning classification.
Discussion? Ordinance 2019-4355 for a second reading.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hickens, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
Ordinance 2019-4355, this is the second reading, an ordinance creating, establishing, and adopting Chapter 1296 residential appearance standards of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskla.
Discussion? Ordinance 2019-4356 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walther. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
Ordinance 2019-4356, this is the second reading, an ordinance to rezone property located at 10530 Mill Street Road Southwest, parcel number 064-1528880-00.000, totaling 21.42 plus or minus acres in the city of Pataskla from the agricultural AG zoning classification to the medium low density residential R87 zoning classification.
Discussion? Okay, resolution and motions. Any motions on old business? Okay, new business. Ordinance 2020-4358 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee. Kathy, when you're ready, first reading.
Ordinance 2020-4358, this is the first reading, an ordinance creating, establishing, and adopting Chapter 1223 distressed properties of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskla.
Discussion? On to resolutions. Resolutions 2020-012, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into and execute a renewal agreement on behalf of the city of Pataskla with Reinhardt Walters Danner for the purpose of liability insurance through the Ohio Government Risk Management Plan.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow and seconded by Mr. Hicken. Sorry, Mr. Epperson. Discussion?
Jamie, thanks for getting this out to us. Appreciate it. Time with, thanks.
And roll, please.
Walther?
Yes.
Epperson?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Hampshire?
Yes.
Hicken?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2020-013, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Hall and Associates, Inc. for the 2020 Pataskla GIS program.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? And roll.
Epperson?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Hampshire?
Yes.
Hicken?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Walther?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2020-014, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Powell and Associates, Inc. for construction plan review services in 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Epperson. Discussion? Yes.
Just for correction on this, Chris, you said this won't cost the city anything, this is paid for by the applicant?
Right, the applicant will put money into the escrow account, we'll get invoiced, take the money out of that escrow account, and pay the invoice that way.
Okay, and we're sure that the invoice won't be more than what was escrowed?
If the invoice comes in at a higher level than what's escrowed, the plan review stops until that amount is made up.
Anything to add, Jamie?
No, it's just that, we don't offer those city services, we don't have plan reviewers on staff, so we retain third-party services, but the applicants are required to provide the funding to pay the bills.
Any other discussion? Thank you. Thank you. Roll, please.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Motion to set date and time for a special council meeting for the purpose of discussing the comprehensive plan.
Make that motion.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hicken. Discussion?
Should we,
You want to
should we set the date?
Well, I think we should have a discussion.
Well, yeah, we're gonna go into discussion on setting a date. Yeah, that'd be the discussion.
So now you want discussion.
Yes.
So we've been putting this off, folks, and Scott's getting impatient. He calls me every night and every morning.
So Scott, how much time do you think this will take? I mean, roughly?
I don't know, and this is it's somewhat ambiguous at this time because I don't know what questions, comments, issues that council may have. So I would err on the safe side of saying, allocating 2 hours. We don't have to use the whole
Sure.
thing,
Okay.
but that would give us more than enough time.
All right, so, special council meeting, okay. So I would encourage council members to, look at your calendars, and how far out do you need this, Scott? Where today's the 3rd? To get everybody notified and to get, we have this statutory, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about being able to make sure everybody, you get a notice out to everybody, get everybody here.
Mr. Barstow.
Yeah.
Can we suggest times? Maybe that would be.
Yeah, I'm just saying, let's,
Okay.
Days and times.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to go to the March 9th date. That's a Monday between council meetings. That gives us approximately, a month to get our maybe some, if we have some preliminary questions, we can get those in. That'd be my suggestion. And I would say a 6 o'clock meeting, or I know that we've had those types of meetings before, 6 o'clock on and off Monday.
Sure.
Kathy, I don't know of anything, unfortunately, my kids are out of school now, so I don't know spring break dates, but I think that's before spring break happens.
It is.
It is, good. So that's, I think, a pretty strong.
Yeah, March has 1, 2, 3, 5 Mondays in it, so that is a good choice.
I'm good with that, I don't want that.
I am too. March 9th, March 9th?
And
Everyone, okay, everyone on council seems so.
Utility on the 10th, is that right?
The 9th, we said. Monday the 9th.
Are we talking about March?
Yes.
Okay,
Not February.
okay.
Monday, March 9th.
From 6 to 8.
Starting at 6 and however long it goes.
Right.
Okay.
That good with everybody?
So great. I'll ask the mayor to proclaim a special city council meeting for Monday, March 9th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers to discuss, the purpose be to discuss the comprehensive plan.
Very good. Any other motions tonight?
We need to roll
Yeah,
on
we
that.
didn't- we didn't take a roll on that.
Okay. Roll, please.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Any other motions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking for a nomination for someone to fill the vacancy on PBR, Personal Board of Review.
motion for that?
I make a motion to reappoint Mr. Powell to the PBR.
Motion for Mr. Powell, reappoint.
second.
Second, Mr. Epperson. Kathy, any discussion on that? Discussion? Okay, no discussion. Kathy, a roll when you're ready on
Hicken?
reappointing. Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Passes. Congratulations, Mr. Powell. And Mr. Cook, I think the mayor wants to talk to you after the meeting about something. I think he has a special mission for you.
I already put a bug in his ear.
Okay.
Did you have a comment? Mr.
I was
Walker?
gonna say something, Mr. Cook, thank you very much,
Yes.
obviously. You've now opened the door to being asked for help, or being asked to help.
I'm gonna take you up on it.
You might get taken up on that.
Oh, don't worry.
All
Great.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We move on to additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak on any topic we've discussed tonight? I need a name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Anybody wish to speak? All right, what do you got for me, Mr. Barstow?
Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G4. Prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Invited into this executive session are David Mosier, who's acting as the city attorney, Jeff Stankunas, Jamie Nicholson, Bruce Brooks, Chris Schrock, and Mike Bowles. Second.
Got a motion seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Okay, executive session upstairs at 8:46. Need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hickens, seconded by Mr. Walter. Discussion and roll.
Walter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Out of executive session at 9:39. We're gonna go around the room and we're gonna start with Mr. Lee.
Oh, I got it today. I just want to say that it's been a tough week for our community, and Mr. Bob Wheeler was a very good friend, and it's my condolences to the family and the police department. He's throughout my childhood, and as I started driving, has pulled me over on several occasions, and a few choice words, especially on Columbia, as I would head into work. And even though at one point he pulled me over so many times, I'd actually asked him to give me a ticket. He still wouldn't do it because he was just that kind of guy. But we're gonna miss him a bunch. And also, I want to say thank you to the mayor and the police department with the tragic incident with the boys. They're two of my kids that were on my football teams, two of my son's football teammates and close friends, and it was a rough week. But the mayor, you guys just did a phenomenal job, and it just reassures me to see the community get behind what's terrible and make the absolute best they can out of it. Obviously, we lost a boy, and the other one's struggling. And I just ask for prayers for both their families, and thank you for what you guys did. So, with that,
I work with a lot of scouts, a lot of Eagles, and I hate the idea that it gets out there that every young person that handles or gets near a gun would or could kill somebody. So hopefully we just get that education out there and make sure that people understand these things can happen. So leave them alone if you've got no business, and are properly trained if they're gonna.
I just wanted to tell council, working with Chris and working with Scott on a few of these items that are coming up, some difficult items. It's a can-do attitude. Chris, I of course worked with Chris on some other things, and I think Tim would echo this without question. It's a can-do attitude. It's and that's really what is needed for Pataskala, rather than all the adversity and all the negativity that's out there in the rest of the world. It's nice to talk with our administration and hear, we'll figure that out. So appreciate it. Thank you. If you'll let Scott know that quietly, not too much.
I'll ease it
Ease it in, not too much.
Not for me.
Yeah, it was a tough week last week, and this morning didn't start out much better, but lots of praise to our, and seriously, I said that earlier, but that young officer had just gone through his training, and this was basically kind of his first full day, and then to get that call, but he handled it very, very well. And I want, you thanked me, but I'm thanking you because I know you're looking out for that other kid. We can't lose him.
We won't.
And accidents happen, and we're looking at that. I thought it might be a little too soon, and then to have the safety class, and then I thought, why would you wait 1 minute more for something like that? So we're jumping into that with both feet, and it's garnered a heck of a lot of attention. So I'm excited about that. Glad to have Chris on board. The communication already has been, not that it was bad with Mr. King, it was actually excellent. So, but you're already blowing it out of the water, so thank you for that. I will mention that one of the things that did fall through the cracks was our quarterly newsletter, so please resurrect that when you have time, and Jess and the other departments will obviously help you with that, but that's huge in getting information out as a part of the pie, internet, newsletter, council meetings, website, just gotta do that.
Yep. We can bring that back.
So, and I don't wanna steal your thunder, cause you usually bring it up about the Ethics Commission. Will you bring that up tonight, please? Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Barstow?
Yeah, the new members, don't forget ethics.
That's what I was
No.
going to
Good time, yeah. No. Due, it's past due, isn't it?
No.
It's,
We have 15 days.
Okay.
When we done.
So shocking news from Iowa. Donald Trump's won the Republican caucus times. On the Democratic side, too close to call. That's my hot news update. That's all I have.
Kinda like the groundhog prediction. Thank you. Mr. Hicken?
And the mayor talked about the reminder for those of us that were not just immediately placed on council that log into the ethics board and do your filings. They're due May, Kathy, help me.
May 15th.
May 15th. Other than that, when you go through a tragedy, and any community goes through a tragedy, I saw the mayor gave a very, very good presentation on the television. But more than that, I saw, because I wasn't really close to these individuals, I saw all the stuff that happens from outside the bubble for the first time in a long time when it comes to high school kids in the city. And so seeing it from outside the bubble made me marvel even more at the resiliency and the community esprit de corps for the way the community comes together to deal with tragedy. And I'll let it go at that.
Mr. Epperson?
I'd like to echo Tommy's comments as well, and as well as Jude's. Firearm safety is huge in my house. Not really concerned with my children, but if they're in a situation where they're at somebody else's house and a friend is like, hey, look what my brother has or my dad has, I want to make sure they know how to handle that. So hopefully stuff like that's touched in this firearms course, Mr. Mayor. I will look to see if, even though they're trained, I'm going to support and put my kids in there and get that rolling. I think that's a great opportunity for the city, and hopefully we can prevent more of these tragedies. So.
I'm actually gonna talk to the schools. I don't know how you'd handle it on that large of a volume, but but, I'm also thinking about doing what we're doing on probably a yearly basis. I mean, more people get introduced every year to.
I think the chief said that's something that he could maybe work with. Is that right, Chief?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's possible.
That's awesome.
Sorry, Mayor. Let me touch on.
That's all I have. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Epperson and seconded by Mr. Lee. Discussion and roll.
Walter?
Yes.
Epperson?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Henshaw?
Yes.
Pickens?
Yep.
Lee?
Yes.
Adjourn.
All right, I gotta work. See ya. Good. Hey,